Look, this the Black Holocaust. I knew it was prophecy. 1,000 times worse than the Jewish atrocities. Uneven playing field, there'll never be a fair score. Cause in 1619, that's when they declared war. We the 12 tribes, the ones that the promise reaches.
Call Allah, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah. This is Hadar with the Sector Sakari, right? I'm going to do a quick little dagger set for you. And the title of this little quick lesson going to be Paul Believed and Kept the Law. Which is something really important when you're going up against Christians or you just combating the faith and defending the faith in the dialogue or out on the streets, right? These are something that real quick cuts, go-to verses that you have to know, all right? This is Romans 6, 1 and 2. And this is for people who say that we're under grace now, which is a way for them to open up and say that the law is done away with, or we don't have to keep the law for whatever reason, right? So just because we're under grace, are we allowed to break the law, right? This is Romans 6 and 1. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? Okay, so just because we're under grace don't mean we get to break the law. It's not an excuse to break the law. There are no excuses, right? Once you learn this truth, understand this truth, it's your duty to follow what the Most High has commanded us in the volume of the book. So this is Romans, Salakia. This last part, God forbid, verse 2. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? So once you accept this truth, accept walking in this faith, you should be dead to sin. Right? To say sin is of the devil. He who sins is of the devil. And we're supposed to be, as followers of Yahweh, we're supposed to be examples of us leading that old man behind, killing that old man, right? It says, how shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? Right, and this is Paul. This is Romans 3 and 31 regarding faith. Do we have to keep the law? Or is it just something that we can have faith in, right? Do we then make void the law through faith? God forbid. Yea, we establish the law. So, the Most High is real direct. And Paul himself is very direct in these two verses regarding grace and faith. Right? God forbid, both times. We establish the law. So not only is he telling you that he himself is dead to sin, he's not walking in sin, right? He also says that there's no excuse or there's no way you can make an excuse for not keeping the law through faith. It says, God forbid, yea, we establish the law. So that's what Paul was teaching when he was making his mission trips or writing these epistles to these churches. Right? He's establishing the law as we should be. This is Romans 7 and 12. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy, and just, and good. Okay, and these are just positive attributes of the law, according to Paul, right? But once he says something, a lot of people try to say that, well, let me start like this. Once he says something, you can't find another verse in Paul to contradict Paul. That doesn't make any sense. Even me writing a narrative or an essay, I'm not going to contradict myself in my own writings. Especially not the same paper, same book. So what I'm trying to get across is you have to find something in Paul's writing contrary to him saying that the law is holy, commandment holy, and just and good. If you find something in Paul's writing that says the law of death or something like that, right? You would have to then consider that there's another law that he's talking about, which is, of course, the law of sin, right? So let's keep going. Romans 7:22 says, "For I delight in the law of God after the inward man." Okay. Spiritually, he delights in doing the law of the Most High. It says in verse 23, "But I see another law in my members, warring against the law of my mind, and bringing me into captivity to the law of sin, which is in my members." So he's established two different laws, the law of God and the law of sin, right? And he already said that one of these laws is holy, just, and good. And we understand that that's the law of God, right? It says, verse 24, "O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death? I thank God through Jesus Christ our Lord. So then with the mind I myself serve the law of God, but with the flesh the law of sin." So with his mind, he serves the law of God, which is holy, just, and good. With the flesh, which we know is contrary to the spirit, and we just read, no, we didn't actually. But the law is spiritual. So in his mind, he serves the law of God, but with his flesh, which is contrary to the spirit, he serves the law of sin, right? Romans 2:13 says, "For not the hearers of the law are just before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified." Okay, so we understand that we're justified by faith, but like I said, faith is not a means to get out of keeping the law. And it's one thing to know the law, and even I wouldn't say understand, because you get a good understanding from keeping the commandments, but it's not enough to hear the law and to know something of the law, right? But the doers of the law shall be justified. It takes faith and works. Just like we're not making void faith through the law, and we're not making void the law through faith, they are two different sides to the coin, right? It's a just balance to have faith and works. Is what makes faith perfect, right? Works is what makes faith perfect. But the doers of the law shall be justified. Romans 15:4. "For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope." I read that because during Paul's ministry and the New Testament in general, New Testament characters, Israelites, authors, what have you, during their ministries, they were reading from the Torah and the Tanakh, right? So this is what they were teaching the people from, okay? Even Paul himself, though he wrote epistles, he was teaching them to obey the law and the prophets, okay? So Acts 24:14, "But this I confess unto thee, that after the way which they call heresy, so worship I the God of my fathers." Okay, so he's saying that he worships God after the same way that y'all call us a cult, right? It says, "Believing all things which are written in the law and in the prophets." So if you believe in the law and the prophets, are you going to speak contrary against them when you're teaching other people? All right, that's a question y'all gotta ask. And I'm gonna give you this, Sirach 32:24, because it says he believed all things which are written in the law and in the prophets, and there are certain things that we're commanded to do in the law and the prophets, right? Which if he believes, then he would have to take heed to those things, and he would have to be teaching people those things, right? Sirach 32:24. He that believeth in the Lord taketh heed to the commandments, and he that trusteth in him shall fare never the worse. All right, so if you believe, you taking heed to the Most High's commandments. This is Acts 18 and 18. And Paul, after this, tarried yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren, and sailed thence into Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shorn his head in Caesarea, for he had a vow. Okay, so this is an example of Paul keeping the law. He had a vow. Why is he shaving his head? Where can we find a vow that requires you to shave your head, right? It's in the Old Testament. It's the Nazarite vow. I believe it's like number 6. Okay, so, but if it isn't, then you would have to show me another vow in the Bible anywhere where you take a vow and you have to shave your head, right? This is part of the law. Verse 19, and he came to Ephesus and left them there, but he himself entered into the synagogue and reasoned with the Jews. Okay, like he did. Verse 20, when they desired him to tarry longer time with them, he consented not. Now, why didn't he hang out with the boys a little longer and talk scripts with them? Let's find out. Verse 21, but bade them farewell, saying, I must by all means keep this feast that cometh in Jerusalem. Okay, so we're commanded to go to Jerusalem three times out of the year for high holy days, right? Paul is telling these men that he can't stay and teach them any longer, can't reason with them, can't talk the scriptures with them any longer because there's a high holy day coming up. That's an example of him keeping the law. Okay? And this is well after Yahushua already died, right? Made his sacrifice. So this is him keeping the law after Christ, after these Christians say that we were entered into the new covenant. Because they believe, most of them, I'm not going to say all of them, but a lot of them believe that we entered into the new covenant and that's why we don't have to keep the laws. You might run into that, right? But this is Paul after the incident where Christ shed his blood for the nation of Israel, that he's keeping these laws. Why is he keeping the law after Christ died if it's something that that Yahushua did away with or abolished, right? This is Acts 16, 1 and 3. Then Then came he to Derbe and Lystra, and behold, a certain disciple was there named Timotheus, a son of a certain woman which was a Jewess, and believed, but his father was a Greek, and that word Greek there is Hellene, right? I believe 1672, which is a Hellenistic Jew, right? So he was still an Israelite. Verse 2, which was well reported of by the brethren that were in Lystra and Iconium, him would Paul have to go forth with him, and took and circumcised him because of the Jews which were in those quarters, for they knew all that his father was Greek. Okay, so Paul not only is keeping the law, he's forced to make somebody else keep the law. And not even forced. It was a suggestion and a counsel that he would make this vow, and he has to circumcise Timothy, right? A few more and I'll get out of here. 1 Corinthians 11 and 1. Be ye followers of me, even as I also am of Christ. So we know that Paul was taught by Christ. Paul is saying in this verse that he follows Christ. He follows what he was taught, right? Now, to be a follower of Christ, what does that mean? What was Christ teaching, right? Did he teach us a different message than Paul? No. Okay, this is John 15 and 10. If ye keep my commandments, ye shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandment and abide in his love. Okay, so to be a follower of Paul, you have to know what a follower of Christ is, or what Christ was following, right? So it's funny that y'all can't follow these little breadcrumbs, but you say that you follow Christ. It says, if you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandment and abide in his love. So Paul followed Christ, which is the ultimate example, right? We'll get to that. And Christ followed the commandments of the Most High. This is getting interesting. Don't seem like Paul is speaking anything contrary to what Yahweh Shah was teaching, which was the law. Doesn't seem like he's going against the law. Okay, this is 1 John 2 and 6. He that saith he abideth in him ought also to walk even as he walked. So if Paul really is a true follower of Christ, Christ loved him. Otherwise, he wouldn't be teaching him. He wouldn't have sent him out to his sheep, right? He is a Hebrew Israelite of the tribe of Benjamin. Probably the hardest working apostle in the book. So y'all gonna stop using my brother Paul as a little scapegoat for your own lustful thoughts, trying to be an okay servant in the flesh. Okay, it says 1 John 2 and 6, he that saith he abideth in him. Salakia, let me go back to 15 and 10. If you keep my commandments, you shall abide in my love, even as I have kept my Father's commandment and abide in his love. You keep the Father's commandment, you abide. Or you keep Yahweh Shah's commandment, you abide in his love. Just like Yahweh Shah abides in his Father's love because he keeps the commandments. 1 John 2 and 6, he that saith he abideth in him ought also to walk even as he walked. Okay, so if you're going to say you love, you believe, you have faith in Yahweh Shah, you're going to walk like he walked. 1 Peter 2 and 21, for even hereunto were ye called, because Christ also suffered for us, leaving us an example that ye should follow his steps, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth. So Christ didn't sin. Christ didn't break the law. So we don't have any example to willfully break the law. And you should be praying for the Most High to cleanse you of your secret faults, right? Let's find out what sin is real quick. Actually, let's get Hebrews 10:26. For if we sin willfully after that we have received the knowledge of the truth, there remaineth no more sacrifice for sins. So you say you follow in Christ, but if you sin, and then his sacrifice don't mean nothing to you, right? And it can't mean anything to you. It's not going to do anything for you. And we know sin is transgression of the law pursuant to 1 John 3 and 4. Whosoever committed sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law, right? Last one, I'm out of here. Sirach 2 and 15. They that fear the Lord will not disobey his word, and they that love him will keep his ways. So real quick question. Who do you serve? Do you serve Paul or do you serve the Most High God? Right? They that fear the Lord will not disobey his word, and they that love him will keep his ways. Another question. Did Paul disobey his word? If so, then Paul didn't fear the Lord. And if that's your line of reasoning and logic, then why are you following Paul? Right? They that fear the Lord will seek that which is well, pleasing unto him, and they that love him shall be filled with the law. So again, I ask you, do you serve Paul or do you serve the Most High? With that, call Allah Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Shalom.